2 and 3.
So you have these people who are victims, and now because of the mess that Kathy Hochul and Andrew Cuomo have created, they have to become victims once again. And that's why people are reporting these crimes less. The fact is that they know just as well as the law enforcement officers know that, people are getting arrested for pretty bad crimes, for pretty violent crimes, and they're being released immediately. But, I think what's so important, and I've tried to scream this from the rooftops on every major network and every interview that I do, is that as someone who's worn the uniform, as someone who, I remember vividly, the time when Bill de Blasio was the mayor of the city of New York, and we were in a really dark time. And I remember the exact day and the moment and where I was standing in my office when over the radio came the assassination of Ramos and Lou in the 8-4 precinct. And I remember that evening or that afternoon when de Blasio walked into the hospital and many of the cops turned their backs on him. And the feeling, and I remember the days following that, when you'd go out on the street, there was like this eerie, silent feeling across the 5 boroughs. And I'm sure not everyone felt that, but law enforcement professionals did, because you felt like you were on your own. You felt like that no one had your back. And now you have a president who, I have said before, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Republican. I'm not saying this because I'm, thankful to be a nominee of his administration. I'm saying it because I believe it, is that there has never been a greater friend to law enforcement in the Oval Office than who we have right now. President Trump and the work that he is doing in Washington, D.C. to clean up our nation's capital is not, and that's the thing. And the Democrats who are against it, they're saying, well, crime is fine. Well, why not make crime better? The collaboration between federal and local law enforcement agencies happens in every part of this country. And that's how we keep people safe. Just look at last week here. I mean, there was a huge arrest for MS-13 members where ICE and the Nassau County Police Department worked together, shared intelligence, shared information, took 3 dangerous people off our streets. That's not a Republican or Democrat issue. That's a public safety issue, keep our community safe issue. And so the work that President Trump is doing is sending a clear and concise message to law enforcement in every corner of this country. I have your back. I am going to support law enforcement, and it's about time that we take the handcuffs off the cops and allow them to go out there and do the job that they're supposed to do.
Like you say, he's not only a friend of law enforcement, he's a friend looking after all American people in so many different ways. As a Jew, I don't think Israel or the Jewish people have ever had a better friend, certainly at the White House, than we have in President Trump. Like you said earlier, it's not just going after Jews, it's going after America. Yeah. Israel's the little Satan, America's the big Satan. Talking of world politics, what do you think about what's happening with Putin, Zelensky? I got to tell you, President Trump has Putin on his heels. That was the coolest moment. President Trump could do that with the stealth bombers flying overhead. You just saw the body language.
It was so I was doing a live hit at that point, and we were kind of walking through, and I just think that there was so much symbolism, even to where the meeting took place, right? Or what they call the summit, the Alaskan summit. I mean, it's a place where, I guess is very reminiscent of the Cold War and the attempt to have collaboration between the United States and Russia. And the idea, it's just, when people said, well, is Trump going to be, is Trump going to be in charge? When is Trump,
when is he not in charge?
But the flex, like you said, that only President Trump could pull off. I mean, walking down that red carpet and have the United States military just fire overhead. He's
a badass.
Yeah,
that's what we need. People don't like the braggadocio personality. We need that in our generals, in our leaders, in our president. We need someone to say we are better than everybody else. Listen, Americans are better than everybody else. We are the protectors of the world. We are the providers of the world. No one has done it better.
And we shouldn't be apologizing for that.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what President Trump, the message that he sends is that, when he says we are, unapologetic, we shouldn't be apologizing for being America first. We shouldn't be apologizing for showing off our fierceness and our ability to keep, not just our nation safe, but the world safe.
You're listening to Anthony and Ari Unfiltered on WNEW 102.7 FM and WSNR 620 AM. Yeah, you're right. Not for me to question President Trump. He meets with Putin, and then he set up a meeting where Zelensky and Putin are going to be meeting. I kind of think those two egos, I don't know how that's going to work out without President Trump being in the middle as an intermediary. I would have skipped that portion, brought President Trump in to speak with both of them.
I think we'll see. Listen, I think that President Trump has made it very clear from day one, when asked over and over again, what do you want to be known as when you're done with your presidency, and putting all the other successes, whether it's securing the border, whether it's record investment in the United States of America, whether it's meeting our military standards, eliminating DEI, making our government more efficient. He says, I want to be a peacemaker. So I think the strategy is there. My concern all along, and for full disclosure, when I was in Congress, I supported every funding bill for Ukraine. I always thought that, I'd rather send the money than send our troops over there. And I think there's part of me that still believes that. But now as things unravel and you begin to learn more, there is no question that there needs to be a better checks and balances system when it comes to us. And it's not just about Ukraine. It's really everywhere we spend money, but Ukraine specifically. But coming down to the actual meeting between Putin and Zelensky, I think what is important and what maybe not everybody realizes is that when this war is over, the leadership of probably both of them is over, right? There's no elections being held in either place, but specifically they passed I think legislation in Ukraine that basically says until we are at a wartime, there's no more elections. So Zelensky's only holding on to power for as long as he's fighting.
I'm not sure he's too worried. He's all of a sudden worth billions of dollars. Yeah. It's the same way like Arafat's daughter is worth like $8 billion. Yeah. That's what I love about President Trump. He's holding people accountable. He talked about the President Trump's main goal is to bring peace to the world. I heard Hillary Clinton say that if he brings peace, she's going to nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. I can't wait for that write-up. Yeah, but you know what? Whether in jest or not, the fact that that'll leave her mouth tells you the influence, the broad influence he has on all Americans.
Listen, I think that, obviously I'm no fan of Hillary Clinton, but we talk about this regularly, and thankfully it is leading to the success of Republicans across this nation. But the Democrats continue to be on the wrong side of so many issues. Even the issues that are, in government and politics that we call 80-20 issues, where 80% of the population, regardless of political affiliation, are in support of and 20% are not. But the Democrats go with the 20%. And it's bonkers. Like they continue to double. I mean, the queen of this is Kathy Hochul. She continues to double down on the most ridiculous stupidity that we could possibly see in New York State. But we're now seeing it across the country. I mean, look at the message that was sent in the 2024 election from independents, from Democrats, from conservatives, Republicans. They said, we want a secure border. They knew that Biden and Kamala Harris allowed, over 10 million people into this country illegally, many of which who are on the terror watch list, who want to cause harm to the United States of America. People realize that. And it wasn't a political situation. It was just the facts. The Democrats allowed this to happen. Now, President Trump wins. He does exactly what he says he's going to do and starts removing criminal illegal migrants from our streets and deporting them. And we have Democrats who are traveling to foreign nations to meet with them. I mean, talking about being on the wrong side of these 80-20 issues.
Let him continue.
Exactly.
I heard that 4.5 million Democrats are now switching to independent and Republicans, leaving that party. Listen, we have a nation of good people who believe in the Judeo-Christian ethics. It's only on the periphery, in Los Angeles and in Baltimore and Chicago and New York City where you have all the freaks. Yeah. And that's just what they are. You're listening to Congressman Anthony D'Esposito, New York State Assemblyman Ari Brown on Anthony and Ari Unfiltered on WNEW 102.7 FM and WSNR 620 AM. The hypocrisy, Congressman, about certain things that are going on. We had that situation recently with Lisa Cook and the mortgage fraud. It reminded me very directly of what we had with Letitia James. I have to see her face, unfortunately, very often in Albany when she visits. They accused President Trump of doctoring his books about Mar-a-Lago. They said Mar-a-Lago was only worth $18 million. I'll take a dozen for $18 million. A $1.5 billion property. And yet, James and Cook both said they lived here as their primary residence and there as their primary residence. Let me ask you something. We always hear about hearings. They're always getting caught. I think people want to know about accountability, not just catching them. We want to see people go to jail. We see Republicans go to jail. I'd like to see these criminals go to jail.
I mean, listen, I think that President Trump and his administration, especially the leadership of our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, she's made it clear that she is going to hold these people accountable. I mean, maybe we're not at the place yet where people are being, hauled into court and trials are beginning, but I think that we're seeing this, on a little bit less of a scale, or I should say maybe less press worthy, but I believe still just as important. I mean, just the other day, could have been yesterday, our director of national security, national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, sent out a list of people who would be their top secret security clearance was going to be eliminated. Why? Because they violated the trust. Why? Because they not only politicized our intelligence, but they weaponized it. So I think that shows that we are holding people accountable. And I think in this situation, there is no question that there's going to be people held accountable. Think about that, the theatrics that Alvin Bragg and Tish James put on with President Trump.
That's all great, and I'm with you on that. But I think people want to see a different level of accountability. When a Roger Stone can go to jail, we already had all the investigations. We know Hillary Clinton set up the fake Steele dossier. Yep. We want to see people go to jail.
Well, I think President Trump said it best the other day. He was asked when he was right about to board Air Force One. Someone said, with everything that's been on, found out over the last and released over the last few days about Hillary Clinton and Obama and Russiagate and the hoax and all that. Do you think that President Obama will be protected by the Supreme Court ruling that you push for with regards to presidential immunity? And President Trump's comment was, President Obama should be happy about that ruling, but the people around him should be very concerned.
Okay. We'd like to see President Obama take a hit, because he was the mastermind behind all of that, plus all the Biden crap that we went through for 4 years. Want to see
I think we'll say it. Listen, I think that there will be accountability. As someone who has been there, unfortunately, as you know, government doesn't work as quick as you and I would like it to. But
only if you're a Republican, though. Republicans get pulled in, locked away real quick.
So we'll see.
You have to have a little bit of balls also. Yeah. Let's switch gears for a second. The Texas redistricting. I know we've talked about that in the past, but I'm thrilled to know is the Democrats have played with gerrymandering for so many years. They're making the threat. They already did it. Like, okay, what are you going to do? They try to redistrict
and shoot and lost.
Atlantic Ocean was there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Texas Republicans have. I think what's different is that the Texas governor and members of the House have made it very clear that the redistricting in Texas, I mean, do they believe that there should be more Republican seats? Yes, but it's based on, it is based on the fact that the population has changed and the census has given them the information that there should be more Republican seats. And the Democrats are screaming about gerrymandering, and you're correct. I mean, Kathy Hochul did it in 2021. She was sued by the Republican Party. I mean, I remember your district, but I think one of the most hypocritical of districts was the 3rd congressional seat, where it went from Glen Cove and the northern part of Nassau County up into Westchester, the Bronx, across the river. I mean, it was the most ridiculous. Talk about, they want to be the party of accessibility and giving representation. How does one represent a district where you have to travel across the water in order to just, go to a Boy Scout event? And listen, that's here on Long Island. It's in New York. Yes, there are districts throughout this country. There's districts in Texas that to get from one end to the other, are 14, 15 hours. They're in 2 time zones.
That's because it's so massive.
Exactly.
There's
So,
very few people
so
in the
you can't have
population.
the same rules as you have in some of those huge states with less dense areas that you do on Long Island.
Absolutely right. So we're talking about Long Island for a moment. Let's zero in on a couple topics. We're talking about security. We know Nassau County was rated as the safest county in the country, thanks to our county executive, Bruce Blakeman, and our fantastic Nassau County Police Department, led by Commissioner Patty Ryder. We're very lucky with that.
And our district attorney.
District Attorney Annie Donnelly doing a fantastic job. But yet, like you said before, their hands are tied because they'll catch them, but eventually they get off with just a slap on the wrist. This is why we need to make these changes. But even on a more local level, Town of Hempstead, the largest township in the country, we have a new supervisor, John Ferretti.
Yeah, John Ferretti's a good friend. I think he's doing a fantastic job. He's hitting the ground running. Just yesterday, I was with him for a little bit. I know tonight I'm gonna meet him at a local festival and introduce him to some friends. But he is listen, he's hands-on, boots on the ground, and I think he's really doing his best. You know, it's not easy, and people don't realize going from a legislative district where I think you represent, probably 100,000 people, to going to the entire town of Hempstead. That, basically my old congressional district was the town of Hempstead plus the city of Long Beach. So if you're in the 5 towns and you need to get to Seaford or Wantagh, it's not easy. So to manage yourself and get around town, but John is doing a great job. I know that he is engaging with all the leadership in the town of Hempstead. And he wants to continue the programs that matter. He wants to invest in infrastructure, and he wants to make sure that he makes life more affordable for town of Hempstead neighbors, and that's what it's all about. It's a huge operation, but what people need to realize, and it's one of the things that I talk about often, because I know John was saying he's going to some new civic associations, and they talk about taxes, and you got to remember that the town portion of your taxes, in most cases, maybe us that live in villages, it's a little different, but for most of town of Hempstead neighbors, your town of Hempstead portion of your taxes is the smallest part. That really, with the exception of the schools, depending if you have kids in school or not, the town gives you your most resources, right? It gives you your parks, it maintains your roads, it makes sure your snow is plowed. So it's a huge thing that the town is the smallest portion of your taxes, and very often people have my taxes go up. I think we know that a lot of that is your school taxes,
money and expenses. People
and unfunded mandates from Albany,
and there's a lot of those. President Trump is trying to address all these issues by making us a wealthier nation. He got recently NATO to commit to paying 5% of their GDP and to commit to $1 trillion of purchasing of American oil and energy, which is tremendous. Imagine the Biden administration shut down our pipelines in every which way. We see gas prices going down. We see things leveling off where they're supposed to be. There's more money in people's pocket. We're going to have this golden age like never before.
Absolutely.
I do feel it.
Yeah, it's not just a golden age for I think our American economy, but it's going to be the golden age for the American worker. Making jobs safer, making them. I mean, the work that President Trump is doing with new workers and engaging with labor unions, that we've never seen that before. And just to go back to the energy thing more real quick, I know that we just have a few minutes to go, but how about the fact that our EPA administrator, he's a Long Islander at heart, comes to Long Island just last week, and something that you and me and Patricia Cantoneri Fitzpatrick and others, Pat Mullaney, have been fighting, what seems like for years.
Battery storage
and offshore wind, right? We're realizing they are not the clean, affordable energy, and it's great to see that President Trump is on the front lines. We got to get Empire Wind 1 axed and put it to bed.
Just for our listeners, just to elaborate a little further, we're Long Islanders. Can you imagine being in Long Beach and looking out 13 miles away, which we can all see, even an old guy like me, I'm able to see 13 miles out and see these skyscraper the size of the Chrysler building sized wind turbines, and there's no benefit. Yes, they came in. We're going to have benefits, millions of dollars. Nothing. Benefits. Power goes.
The only benefit is to them and to Norway. But thankfully, President Trump is on our side. Assemblyman Ari Brown, Congressman Anthony Esposito, WNEW 102.7, WSNR 620 AM. We look forward to talking to you next week. Until then, stay safe and God bless.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you all.
Good job, gentlemen.